Hello, welcome to Triggered Care. I'm Alex, and today's gonna be a heavier video. I'll open with that major trigger activation warning, content warning. I'm just gonna get right into it. Last night, I was I've been suffering from insomnia for a while. And last night I was watching this show called One Mississippi about a survivor of sexual assault. And it kind of inspired me to make this video where the main character shares her story of being molested as a child. And it kind of opens up a dialogue that needed to happen. And I don't know if this video will have that impact, but I figured I can try. So, what I'm going to talk about today is my history of sexual assault from beginning to where I am now. And before I get into it, I just want to say I am not the only one who has a history like this. I'm not a special case. Especially in Wisconsin, where I'm at, there's a surprising number of childhood sexual assault survivors. So this may sound surprising to some people, and I'm sure to other people it's going to sound normal, unfortunately. And I just want to throw that out there. So, starting from childhood, the first time I was sexually assaulted was around 3 years old. And that continued till I was about 6, from 2 different family members along with other adult pedophiles. And then after that, I witnessed a family member who was younger than me get molested throughout my childhood. Around the age of 12 was when I went to homeschooling. And so I went online to find people to talk to. And that is where I met several men who groomed me, which was not difficult since I'd already been groomed from early childhood. And I made child porn for them eventually to repay them for the emotional support that they offered at that time. And that went on for a couple years, during which my mother made it clear to me that she knew about it, and also made it clear to me that I should kill myself. Then around 14 years old, right before I went off to high school, which I went to a public high school, I started dating a boy a couple years older than me. And we weren't dating for that long before, on one of our dates, he took me down to his basement and he sexually assaulted me. And after that, his mother actually walked down and interrupted him, which is what stopped it. And she took me home right away. She knew that something was off. And he stayed home, and while she was dropping me off, or bringing me to my parents, for my parents to drive me home, I can't quite remember which it was, but I remember texting him that I never wanted to see him again. And then he threatened to kill himself. And then 10 minutes later texted me that it did not work because the rope broke or something. And then a couple years later, he turned himself in for what he did. And when the cops called my mother and told her about it, I denied that it happened because I was so terrified of my mother knowing that about me. 15 years old, 15 to 16, I was a freshman in high school where I was harassed and molested at church. I would get groped quite a bit from some of the church boys, and then which led to when I went to prom my freshman year, because there was a small town that allowed anybody to go to prom pretty much, and I wanted to go with my church friends. I was drugged at prom, and a group of church boys tried to drag me away to another basement. But I was fortunate, and that was a near miss because my friend witnessed this happening, called my stepdad, told him to come pick me up, told the boys, hey, I called Alex's stepdad. He's going to be here any minute. You better bring her back. So I'm very fortunate that I had a friend to do that for me at that time. At around 17, 18 years old, my senior year of high school, I was in a musical. And one day we're getting the set ready. I think I was in the supply closet for paint or something. And this other kid who was in the musical with me came in. I thought he was just collecting supplies like I was. And he attempted to sexually assault me. He was trying to kiss me. He was trying to grope at me. Me and him had no history like that whatsoever. So my initial reaction was to laugh and be like, what the hell are you doing? And then he tried again. He was completely nonverbal, just going in for it. And I was able to get away from that situation by, fighting him off and running away. A few months later, the summer after senior year, I was working at Burger King. And after work one day, me and the other closer, because I closed Burger King over the summer, me and the other closer, we went to his place to hang out. I didn't know him very well. It was kind of an intro to a friendship, so I thought. And he ended up drugging me, which I don't even know what he gave me, but it made my arms and my legs paralyzed for a good bit. And then he raped me. And I can still remember the smile on his face while he did this. And then I can remember afterwards me crawling because my legs, well, I wasn't even fully crawling. My legs weren't working, so I had to drag myself out of his house by just my arms. And then sitting in the driveway in my car, just crying and pounding on my legs as hard as I could to try to get feeling back in them. About a year later, I was living in the college town, to the college that I was going to, and it was after work, and I was still closing, and I was just sitting out on my porch having a cigarette, and one of my neighbors stopped by, never met him before, invited me to their place for a party. I said, sure, why not? I'm in college, that's what college is for. So I go and I sit on his porch, and he gets me a beer, and we're just drinking and talking, and it seemed to be going all right, and then I blacked out. And then when I came to, he was in the middle of having sex with me from behind. And once I came to, I tried to get away, which made him use force on me. And then eventually I did get away. Well, I didn't. He finished, and then I was able to walk away pretty much. So yeah, that was when I was 19. And then I met my ex-husband now, a few months after that, or we started dating a few months after that. And then I was married for a good while. And it wasn't until I was married for about 6 years that I realized that my ex-husband had raped me quite a bit. And I learned this from talking to another survivor, because by this point I had a support group and I was talking to local people about trauma, and the survivor was talking to me about an experience she had with an ex-abuser and how he had emotionally manipulated her into sex by asking for it repeatedly until she just gave up. And that happened to her one time. And I remember hearing this and getting mad at her, not at my husband, but getting mad at her for classifying that as rape, because that was about half of the sex that happened in our marriage was something like that. Or me having sex with him because if he didn't have sex in 3 to 4 days, he would get angry, he would break things, and life would get considerably scarier. I never considered that rape because I was choosing to have sex with him in order to avoid those consequences. But it wasn't like he was forcing me down with his hands. And then we separated. The first relationship I had after that, I'm going to have a whole video for, but just to sum it up, I dated a rapist who raped me, I don't know, a handful of times. And during that, I was also sexually assaulted by someone. I'm still scared to really go into details about that. And then I broke up with the rapist boyfriend. I was finally able to put boundaries down with this person who assaulted me. And that was last winter. And then over the summer, a very old friend of mine raped me when I was passed out drunk. A couple days after that, a coworker of mine raped me. When I had asked for some support and some time to talk about what had happened with my old friend, this coworker took it upon himself to, instead of talk to me, force me into a sexual position and then leave me immediately afterwards. And that was the last sexual assault that I've been through. There's been plenty of other close calls or even molestations of somebody touching me when I don't want them to. It's just not adrenaline worthy to mention it, I guess. I mostly just include the stuff that sticks out to me. And like I said, my story is not that unique as people might think that it is. This is an issue. And I want survivors to be able to talk about it. And I don't think I've ever made a video where I just sat down and just listed off all of the sexual assaults that I've gone through. And honestly, it's hard to talk about it with people. Even in my job, it's hard to talk about it with people. Especially the childhood stuff, because that is intense. But we need to stop stigmatizing talking about trauma. Because it's hurting. It hurts me. It hurts other survivors that I talk to about it. and it hurts. So this is a bit about my abuse history. Not nearly all of it, but a bit of it. And I just want to thank you guys for listening. If you made it through this entire video, I feel like I talked a lot about me, and that kind of makes me uncomfortable, but I really appreciate the recovery community. I really appreciate feeling comfortable enough to put this out there. And hopefully it opens up a dialogue that other people can share their experiences so we can feel more comfortable and free to talk about this stuff, to hopefully heal from it. So thank you, and I hope y'all have good ones.